welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this is The Thunder Show, aka WLTV, America's #1 wine show. My, we've moved up from number 19, doesn't it feel good? All right, this is an episode I am super pumped about. We brought out the big ass glass, so you know it's serious time here at WLTV. We are post Labor Day, and it is time to talk about the NFL. Let's start this week off properly. And the snowman is getting nervous. The New York Jets will pull off the upset this Sunday in the Meadowlands. I will be there. Jets 17, Patriots 13. Please, football gods, don't let us lose by more than 30. Today's episode is totally focused on Washington State. I have been throwing up the big W all the time lately, and a lot of people have challenged my authority on this issue, saying that Washington cannot compete with Napa Valley. I've done a lot of Walla Walla versus Napa Valley. However, in 2004, Walla Walla had a tremendous frost issue, so there are not a lot of 2004 Walla Walla wines out there. As a matter of fact, a lot of Walla Walla producers made Columbia Valley Appalachian wines in 2004. So we're going to be focusing on different parts of Washington State today, not the big WWW, like that. And we're going to be focusing on wines that have received some tremendous press lately, some of the big boys, some of the better names. These wines should be able to be representing some of the higher quality stuff. 4 wines I've never had before. I'm extremely excited about this episode. I think some of these wines could absolutely bring the thunder, and that always makes me very, very happy. So let's get right into the first wine. Chatter Creek 2005 Cabernet Franc Horsehaven Hills, which is a new appellation since 2006. 90 points, Jay Miller, who's now writing for Robert Parker. This is a $20 Cab Franc, but it does have 15% Merlot and 10% Cabernet Sauvignon. And so that is definitely a factor. Now, you may notice I'm wearing the same shirt from the big famous announcement episode last week. That is because I'm away all week. But you know, Vaniacs, I stepped up. No Monday show, yesterday was Labor Day. But I will pre-tape 4 episodes for you this week. So at that, there is a little bit of an issue with today's episode. Unlike most episodes with serious wines, these wines are pop and pours, which is okay because a lot of people do that, and I'm kind of used to pop and pour, but these wines have not been breathing as young, big wines. The tannins will be somewhat of a factor, I think, in this episode, more so maybe than others, but I'm not giving Washington State a pass for that reason, and neither should you. 2005 is a very exciting year in Washington State. Again, this is a Cabernet Franc with a good amount, about 25% outside of Cab Franc. You're allowed to call it by varietal by being 75% of the varietal, something that is kind of confusing to me, but that's another story for another day. It's giving flexibility to the winemakers when certain grapes aren't doing their thing. 15 Merlot, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon. Let's look at the color, and let's pour just a little something for the homies and the Vaniacs that aren't here with us anymore. Hopefully they're all still with us. Hopefully you're bringing out the lurkers. Lurkers, I'm not off your case now. Now that we're in the 300s, yeah, we're a little more mature, but I'm still on your ass like grass, and I need you to leave a comment. And I'll be able to actually read them all like I always do on vacation now, so I'll be really calm. I can really not only reply thank you and welcome, I can actually give you a nice story. So this is a good week to step up, lurkers. Plus the football week, I'm excited. Let's give it a little bit of a sniffy sniff. Now, what's really exciting about this wine on the nose is that it's coming across with a little bit of a chocolate aspect. Dark chocolate, not milk chocolate, which, you know, I'm not as big a fan of, but is definitely a component to a nose that I find extravagant. The color is not quite as dark as you expect. Definitely a totally different... This is where Cabernet Franc is so funny. I do have a pet peeve with Cab Franc in America. I'm such a big fan of the Loire Valley Chinon-based Cab Francs, which are so vegetal. And you know, give me Brussels sprouts, give me asparagus heads, give me celery. I'm going to prefer that every day to the cherries and the strawberries. But what really bugs me is Cabernet Franc is primed for that vegetal component, and when it comes to America, especially in California, but here another case with Chatter Creek, even though I like the label and I like the name, it's definitely coming across a little too fruity. It's a different place. There is some underlining green effects that I do enjoy. Almost like freshly cut grass component. Not like a Sauvignon Blanc, that grassy grass, but think of it a little bit more in tune. Down below, a little bit of earth and mud. tight nose. Once again, I'm a little concerned about the aeration factor in this episode, but not too much. Let's give it a little bit of a whirl. Great mouthfeel, a beautiful texture, clearly very strong, youthful tannins. Has a great tannic backbone, good complexity on the wine. I really enjoy. Hold on now. This wine is really showing me a little something here. The finish is quite long. I mean, this finish goes on, and that's a very impressive characteristic of this wine for sure. Let me give it one more little taste. It's got really nice mouthfeel. I mean, I'm a little bugged because in a blind tasting, to call this a Cabernet Franc would really be difficult. This one would definitely stump me, and I would definitely be kind of embarrassed because this is really coming across much more Cabernet-like than Cab Franc-wise. I do like the long finish. The finish does get a little bit awkward, and there are flavors that I don't think that a lot of people would enjoy. I almost get a rotten banana peel aspect on the finish, which I know is going to turn off some sort of percentage of viewers. However, good, lavish, explosive fruit, very, very blackberry, blueberry component driven towards the finish. Then it gets a little junky there with that banana peel, but definitely a wine that I think is interesting. I'm going to score this wine 89 points. At 20 bones, I'm actually going to give this a pass, and really that breaks my heart because I think you all know what I think about Cabernet Franc. I just have to pass on it. I just have to pass on it. It's too bad. Let's move on. Léocole, number 41, 2004 Cabernet Sauvignon, 14.2% alcohol content. 90 points, Jay Miller. $25 US. 25? Is that Kerry Rhodes' number? Best safety in the NFL? Nicknamed Hollywood? It is. $25 US from Léocole. Léocole has been long one of the culty wines. And this comes from premier Columbia Valley Vineyards. I'm a big fan of Léocole 41. I've been a big fan for a long time drinking wines. I remember from the early and mid 90s that I thought were tremendous. As a matter of fact, Léocole and Leonetti are probably the two wineries early on that made me realize that Washington State wasn't that little punk on the corner and was going to step up and be a champion. It is a contender. And I'm very excited about Washington State as a whole. I'm really kind of disappointed in the first wine, but what are you going to do? Let's move on to the next wine. This Cabernet from Léocole 41, 2004, again, from Columbia Valley. They do Walla Walla stuff, but again, with the frost in 04. Nice dark color. Very, 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 very pretty, as you can tell. And let's get a little bit of a sniffy sniff. Uh-oh. The Oak Monster makes an appearance, and it doesn't just hang out in California. No, the Oak Monster, he hitches a ride, he throws out the thumb, and he goes north sometimes, and Léocole has brought, to my pleasure, or my dismay, as many of you know, the Oak Monster. I feel real toasty, almond oak-esque aspect on the nose here, which is concerning. Hopefully on the palate, the fruit will be able to overpower it, but at this point, I am concerned that this wine is going to be over-oaked. It's a little smoky, which is fine. Let's give it a whirl. And way to go, fruit. The fruit is really nice here. This has got a beautiful pomegranate meets plum component. I'm really enjoying the leather component of this. Now, this almost has like, we're going to throw it back to 1987, Gary Vaynerchuk in left field, chewing on his baseball glove. I'm getting that component. And maybe after I made the spectacular play, which I made many of, I went to the dugout. Instead of eating Big League Chew, maybe this time I ate a plum and had a little pomegranate. And by the way, speaking of pomegranates, big Russian delicatessen. I actually ate those forever and had no idea what they were. And then the whole palm juice drink explosion, I finally understood. I only knew it as granata, which is the Russian word for it, mat. I used to eat it all the time. My mom would get scared because I always get stains on my clothes. Maybe that's what I did in the dugout after making the catch, because this wine really tastes like a great combination of leather, baseball glove leather, pomegranates, and plum. Very, very pretty, very explosive, nice long finish. As I'm telling you this little story, there's a hint of cherry cola kind of coming through on the finish that I'm still tasting. A much more pleasant aftertaste and long finish than the first wine. Very lush under palate. Really nice transition on the mid palate of this wine. You get a nice floral-esque, I don't want to say roses because it's not that, but almost a floral component in the beginning, and then the mid palate is very firm with good tannins, a little bit of that. That's where you start seeing the pomegranate and the plum, and then that long finish, that transition is seamless. Great mouthfeel in this wine. This is where Washington steps up and starts punking California. There are not that many California Cabernets at 25 bones that can hang with this bottle of wine. I'm feeling it. I'm liking it. I'm going 91 points on this wine. This is a wine to seek out. Kudos to Leah Cole, 2004 Columbia Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm liking this. This is a wine that I see has the texture, the components, and the class, the tannins, the backbone, and the structure to last between 5 and 8 more years easily. I would highly recommend it. I mean, this is pop and pour now. Give this wine 2-3 hours on the decant. You can drink this now. Bring out the roast. I like this with meats with heavy pepper components. I think will really be a great combination. That was awfully, awfully impressive. It was a good bottle of wine. Let's move on. Pepperbridge, 2004 Columbia Valley Merlot. You know, Justin's bringing sexy back. I'm trying to bring Merlot back. And this is an area that I believe has the ability to compete with Pomerol and Saint-Emilion more than California. This wine is 92 points J. Miller, 41 or 44 US dollars. I can't read what I wrote. This is a winery that I've been paying attention to for a long, long time. They produce very high quality wines. Wines have snuck up in price a little bit as Washington State has grown in popularity. I'm telling you, this is the beginning of the end of the golden era. Don't blame me. I'm trying to help you. I'm not the only factor. I'm not that big. I don't change markets. Enough with that. I appreciate it. But this is the beginning of the end. I see Washington State prices climbing between 20 and 40% over the next couple of years, which is going to make wines that are right now, like this Pepperbridge is one of the premier producers in Washington State. Look, this wine now, their top Merlot is in the 40s. This is a wine that's going to be in its 70s in 36 months. And so that's what we're going to see in Washington State as more and more people introduce to the wines. They're limited. They're harder to get. It's going to be an issue. Look at the color in this wine. It is so much darker even than the last Cabernet. And this is Merlot. Merlot is no punk. So you have to be... Listen, I almost spilled it on myself. Lizzie would have killed me. It would have been dry cleanings. It would have been a whole mess. Let's give it a little bit of a sniffy sniff. Very interesting. This actually has a component on the nose of, do you know what a match smells like after you spark it and then the flame goes out? And it's even not the fumes that you get, but afterwards. It's got a little bit of a used match component on the nose. It also has an herbal tea kind of component to it. This is a very interesting nose. It's got a little bit of a tea that I drink called White Cloud. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Once again, classic black cherry components coming through as well in this wine. I also do get a tiny hint of black pepper, which I'm enjoying and I'm appreciating. Let's give it a whirl. Huh. That tricked me. This wine comes across very, very New World. So Old World fans, I'm going to throw a cork at you because you're going to have to leave the room right now because this wine is going to disgust you. This wine gets very high C, over the top, roller coaster Shiraz-esque. I'm actually quite surprised how extracted and over the top this Merlot is. Very over the top. That said, the fruit is redonkulous. I mean, it is so pure. I mean, it's almost like I'm biting into the grapes. Ooh, this is one of those wines. This is one of those wines that really can go either way. There's a lot of people who are not going to like this style, who are looking for more old world style wines, classic Italian wine drinkers. This is definitely not something I can compare to most of the Pomerols, as much as the traditionalists and the purist Bordeaux fans love to make fun of the right bank as not being pure and being New World. This is on a whole new level. God, the fruit is so tremendous in this wine. It's so clean and so well made. For the people that love the New World style, this is a wine that's going to really knock them out. I find like this wine got caught. I find like this wine is really caught. It's like the 6-foot kid in 3rd grade. He just grew too fast. I feel like this wine is outgrowing its actual normality, if that makes any sense. I feel like it's awkwardly ahead of its time. I feel like Pepperbridge is really onto something with this wine. Is very interesting. It's that match component, that's really interesting. It's got like a smoky. So this wine reminds me on the finish of a little bit of like a smoked Canadian bacon aspect kind of on the finish, which I like quite a bit. This is a wine that really perplexes me. It's a very tough wine to pinpoint because there's really two different contradictory things going on here. The purity, the fruit, the winemaking is exceptional. This wine is so complete and complex. I love the layers of different flavors that are going on in this wine. However, the fruit may be so pure that I'm thinking it's fake, but it's almost not, if that makes any sense. It's so delicious, it almost tastes artificial. I'm going to score this wine 90 points because that makes me feel comfortable and safe. I want to sleep in my safe bed on this wine. It is definitely a wine that I think is worth seeking out if you can ever bring out the expense account. Because it's 40 bones, and I'm not so sure that I want to recommend it as a guaranteed buy. But as you can tell by watching Wine Library TV, we've done thousands of wines. This wine may be more than, maybe in top 5 wines of really kind of confusing me of where it's going. I'd love to taste. This is the kind of wine for myself. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You can take this to the bank. I'm going to take a 6-pack of this home and earmark myself to really taste a bottle of this over the next 6 years, because I think 1 bottle each year, or maybe 1 every other year. I think this is the kind of wine that we're going to experience an enormous transition. And what's better than that? It's like life. Mod, are you the same person you were 5 years ago? How about 5 years before that? And 5 years before that? No to all those. And neither are you. And neither is wine. And so this is a very fun wine for me to watch through the years. That was kind of cool. And finally, the wine I've been waiting for. Holy Jesus. No, almost. This wine has a punt that you would not believe. Hopefully the Patriots will be punting a whole lot this upcoming weekend. This wine is the Doni Surratt 2004 from DeLeo, which is one of the great producers of Washington State wines. Now this comes from an appellation, Yakima, which is the first AVA in Washington State. So a very legendary place. 15.4% alcohol content. This wine's a monster. $40 US, 93 points. Jay Miller, so a huge score on this wine. And I'm going to tell you something about Surratt. Now, this wine is co-fermented with 3% Viognier, which gets very co-roti-like, and you know how that makes me feel. I love it, and I'm really excited. I'm staying away from it. The nose, when you do Shiraz or Surratt with Viognier, you get that killer, aromatic, explosive nose that I beg and scream for, because as you know, for me, the nose is an integral part of the entire wine drinking experience. As a matter of fact, I can eat a meal in 18 minutes, but sometimes it takes me a half an hour to drink a glass of wine because my nose is all up in there the whole time. You got to find your niche, what you like. Some people like to eat with food, drink wine with food. There's so many ways to coddle a bottle of wine. Let's give it a sniffy sniff, and hopefully it'll come through. And this is why wine rocks. This is right this moment, just now, is why I love doing this show. This wine smells like dirty diapers. And there's nothing else to say. And I'm going to tell you why it smells like dirty diapers and not just straight poop or manure. When you smell dirty diapers, Luckily, little AJ, who's made a cameo on WLTV, is 11 years younger than I am. I was very mature for my age, mind. You may not know, especially by the way I do this show. But I took care of AJ a whole lot. Changed his diapers. Well, maybe I didn't change his diapers, but I smelled diapers quite a bit that had a little poop inside. And what that smells like is there's actually a freshness to it because, Mom would put the baby powder on his butt and the diapers would have they're new. And so there's almost like a poop meets baby powder meets like the plastic or what the hell a diaper is made out of these days. That's what I'm getting on this nose. And I'm telling you right now, everybody who smells this wine will get that exact aroma, that scent. It is pretty darn wild, completely different than I expected on this wine. Nothing like I expected. And man, that is really fun stuff. Let's give it a whirl. I'm going to taste it again because I got caught off guard there a little bit. When you're putting this down, the poop gets a little bit more, this is real like poop. A lot of the stuff we talk about Burgundy is manure. This is like our poop, not the cow stuff that mixes into the ground. This is wild. Boy, is this wine big. Wow, this wine brings the thunder, my friends. This wine is extremely massive. If we're going to get excited about those Australian wines that we got excited about a week ago, we have to get excited about this wine. This wine is $40 US, so extracted, so explosive. The best way I can explain it is, let's make pretend all wines are orange juice. And you've got orange juice that you buy at like the dollar store or Krauser, 7-Eleven, or Tropicana stuff that's kind of watered down. And then you've got orange juices that you go outside in Florida and you pick the oranges from the tree, you go and you squeeze them, and it's all pulpy and thick. This is what this wine is. It's the pulpy and thick version of red wine. It's so concentrated, this wine, and so complex. Really interesting. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Boysenberry, blackberry, raisin-esque in its approach, really, on the mid-palate. Has a very fascinatingly long and really quite aspirational winemaking here. These people went for it. This is a New World fruit bomb. Old World fans, see? You missed the boat. Gotta blame it on something. This is definitely New World love at its finest. If you're feeling those monster Shirazes from Australia that are rolling in at $50 to $80 a bottle, here's a less expensive alternative that may have even a little bit more of a backbone. And let me tell you something. If you want to, and it's funny because don't forget, we didn't let this aerate that whole lot. And you know what? We get so lucky. In our kind of mistake, I get to show you a lesson. A lot of wines, as they hit air, really change. And this wine, clearly, but I screwed it up. You see what happened? Before I poured the extra amount, the wine started to blow off. So the poop, almost like, should I say it? I will. Almost like a fart. Fart doesn't stay forever. It kind of blows off. That's what kind of goes on with this wine. Now I poured it back in, and again, back to the diaper. But I don't mind. New World love at its finest. Everybody who likes New World fruit bombs is going to adore this wine. It's got a tropical aspect to it as well. I'm really liking it for that. This is kind of too much for me. It just went a little too high. This roller coaster did make me throw up. I'm going to score 91 points. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that would score this wine 95 points. And the Old World fans that like tradition and terroir, well, not that this doesn't have terroir, let me rephrase that, like vegetal and earthy tones, are not going to like this wine at all. So you got to kind of know what you're all about, and that's what wine is all about. That's about it. Question of the day. What is your favorite Washington State wine of all time? And if you've never had one, what are you waiting for? Because you, with a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world, whether you like it or not.